The kind of stresses that I came across in corporate life, there came a point where one of the doctors for vertigo, he prescribed me some antidepressants.
Yeah.
I said, why have you written antidepressants for me? And he said, you high flying executives, you all are so stressed. You need something. Now, if I prescribe yoga for you, you will never have time to do it. Straight from the doctor's clinic, I went to my mother's yoga classes. I gave her a call. And from that day, I started practicing every day. And I was on a very high dose of Vertin at that time because
Mm.
nothing else was working. And within a month, I was on zero medication.
Namaste, ma'am. First, to introduce
Namaste.
Namaste. To introduce Megha, ma'am, she's the Chief Vision Officer of AMI Yoga, which is an institution which is running successful yoga classes both online as well as offline for people across the world. She has held various senior executive positions in pharma companies before she took into the path of yoga. Namaste, ma'am, and a very warm welcome to our podcast. So before we
Namaste.
start, yeah, namaste, ma'am. So before we start the podcast, if you could just please introduce yourself, ma'am, give your background. How did yoga happen to you? What was your transformation journey? Why you quit a high flying career in corporate and moved into this path of yoga?
Yes, Padma, actually, it wasn't so sequential because as I was growing up, yoga just became a part of the family. My mother, as you know, was teaching for many years and she established this institution as Yog Sadhana Kendra 40 years ago.
Okay.
And ever since yoga was just a part of life. Not that I
Wow.
was a very active participant or a practitioner, but when it is all around you, you tend to get drawn into it and do at least a little bit of practice as a teenager growing up. Then I got very busy with my corporate life. It became difficult to practice. But the kind of stresses that I came across in corporate life, there came a point where one of the doctors for vertigo, he prescribed me some antidepressants.
Yeah.
And knowing that, coming from a pharma field, I could immediately make out that prescription. And I said, why have you written antidepressants for me? And he said, you high flying executives, you all are so stressed. You need something. Now, if I prescribe yoga for you, you will never have time to do it.
Mm.
But if I write an antidepressant, you will quickly take a pill and feel better. And that
Quick
was like a
fix.
turning point for me. Yeah, yeah. That was like a turning point for me. It was, oh my God, yoga is there at my doorstep. It's there in the house. How can I go and take a pill for this? I think say straight from the doctor's clinic, I went to my mother's yoga classes. I gave her a call. And from that day, I started practicing every day. And I was on a very high dose of Vertin at that time because
Mm.
nothing else was working. And within a month, I was on zero medication.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I think that was a big turning point for me. And after that, a lot of things started falling in place. Swami Niranjananand came to our institute. And under my mother's persistence, I did take Diksha with him.
Wow.
Went to
Okay.
the ashram, got further motivated to practice yoga. And then, like this, from 2002, yoga has been a part of my life. Wherever I went, even if I traveled, I made sure that there was a towel or a bed sheet to practice,
Mm.
do some yoga practices and meditation, pranayam. So whether it was 15 minutes or 1 hour, I tried to make time in my schedule. Actually, every pharma company I worked with also, I introduced yoga there in their curriculum. So
Wow.
everybody who joined that organization, luckily, I think from 2004 onwards, I was heading training in all the organizations I worked with. And for almost 20, 25 years, I was able to introduce yoga into every, I think 15, 17 years, I was able to introduce yoga into every organization I worked with.
Fantastic.
And it helped a lot. I could see the difference. So as you grow deeper into yoga, I think your perspective on life also changes. And there comes a time when you feel that, well, this is my vocation. That's what I felt. I had worked 26 years in the pharma industry by then. And I felt I need to do something very different. It's like a compelling thought in your mind, which doesn't allow you to do anything else. So that's what happened to me. And that's how I then got in full time into yoga.
I now know why I'm hooked to you in a certain way, because I started yoga because I had vertigo issues too. So somewhere
Okay.
I also started yoga. I started with Verton and then I started with yoga, and then I could feel the difference between Verton to yoga. So very
Yes.
nice experience, ma'am. Very nice. And again, coming back to your working experience in yoga, ma'am. So working with people, how do you find people's expectation of yoga has changed from the generation where Usha ma'am, the founder of Ami Yoga, had handled people to how it is now? What are the expectation changes with respect to yoga?
I think there is a lot of change because when Usha ma'am started her institute, she was the only one teaching yoga. People did not even know what yoga was.
Mm.
And
Right.
the progress of people through various practices used to be very slow and systematic because every single practice had to be explained in detail. They had to be actually handheld through every single practice.
Mhm.
And people were quite dedicated to each practice because they were learning, each practice was a novelty for them. And as it progressed, they saw the dramatic change it made in their physical body to their mental health. So people who joined those classes at that time, we find some of them are still practicing with us. 30,
That's
35
great.
years, we have practitioners who've stayed with us because yoga made that much of a difference to them.
Oh.
Now, today, there is a dramatic shift. See,
Mm.
anybody who comes to the
True.
class, at some point, they have learned something in yoga.
Mm.
They
Correct.
may have learned from YouTube, they may have gone to a class, they may have followed somebody on yoga. So they don't come with a
Blank
blank
slate.
slate at all.
Yeah.
They come with some, it may be correct, all lopsided understanding of yoga, and they have
Mm.
some expectations when they come. So the need to introduce novelty into the class, do a
Mhm.
variety of things, try and get them hooked onto yoga. Because see, it's not only about teaching yoga and letting the student be. The student also has to get hooked onto those practices.
Mm.
Every
Correct.
day there must be some value add happening to the student.
Mm.
So now all our effort is on that. That how do you make that value add happen to a student who has already learned some amount of yoga, and many of them feel they know yoga. So this
Mm.
is the first big change I find. Second change I would say is that people's general level of physical activity today is much lower.
Mm.
So not everyone comes feeling that they want to do asanas and dynamic practices. Of course, there is a group which does that. But I find there is a very large group which comes and says, oh, I want to do meditation. I
Mm.
want to do pranayam. So, in the mind, there is already a prescription for themselves they have laid out. Sometimes
True.
doctors write and give us, you take these 5 asanas for the patient.
Yeah.
And that necessarily may not be a right prescription because, yes, the doctor understands, but you know how yoga is. It has to be
Mm.
holistic.
Holistic.
So if you write a prescription and give saying take Paschimottanasana, Purvottanasana, Vakrasan, and Tadasana. So the prescription comes like that.
Wow.
Uh,
Okay.
whereas there are so many variety of practices we take, and each practice has a different effect on the physical body, on the mental health of the person. When someone comes and says today that I want to learn meditation, My immediate response is that you come here, you learn asanas, you learn pranayam, and automatically you will be able to practice meditation.
Mm.
But if you
True.
expect you will just sit down and practice meditation, that is a very tough thing to do, because how does your mind concentrate? What have you done to get rid of the distraction?
Mm.
So just thinking that, oh, I'm practicing meditation, it means you are sitting in one place and you are just thinking about something.
Mm.
You are not even aware of what you are thinking.
Mm.
So that is not meditation. So compulsorily, I feel when people come, they have to practice some amount of asanas, physical practices. Movement is very less today. So compulsorily introducing movement into their yoga practice, it is very,
Hmm.
very necessary. Then only they can move on to these. So I feel these are the major changes I see.
So there's a lot of work for teachers to do now, ma'am, because students have become choosy, picky, and very specific. The next
Yeah.
question.
But from their limited understanding. So
Yeah.
not always you can go just with the student.
Mm.
Sometimes, like today morning, I had a student who came and said, I want to increase weight. Will weight increase with
Wow.
yoga?
Okay.
Okay.
Mm.
And of course, in my mind, I thought, it's the yoga is not just for weight increase. And I did tell her that. I said, look, your weight will increase, and there is a pathway by which that weight will increase. It's not as if you will come to yoga and the weight will start increasing. So I had asked her some questions, and she said she eats well, but the food is not, allowing her to put on weight despite her eating. So, what does she do? And I said, look, it means that your stress levels, anxiety levels are very high.
Mm.
Now, only when you calm down those anxiety levels, you have come to a point where your mind is little peaceful. Will the food start nourishing you? And yoga will do that
True.
for you. It will help the food to nourish you by calming down your mind. So that
Wow.
is the path you will follow to start putting on weight. Just by
Okay.
doing yoga, you are not going to put on weight.
This is some
First,
gyan
we
for
will,
me, ma'am. Thank you. I never
yeah,
knew that. Okay, stress could be a reason for that. Okay.
Yeah. So, ma'am, I have a question for you. Nowadays we hear lifestyle diseases, this word a lot, right? So the genesis of such lifestyle diseases that we call maybe hypertension or cardiac issues or maybe diabetes, pre-diabetes, or no any other. For example, you mentioned vertigo also, right? So the genesis of all these diseases you think is only from that comes from our mind, and how is it that we can prevent these lifestyle diseases by yoga, pranayam, or meditation? What are your thoughts, ma'am?
see, firstly, today we can no longer say that all the diseases come only from the mind. They
Okay.
come to certain extent from the mind, but when we are calling them lifestyle diseases,
Mm-hmm.
it means something is not right with our lifestyle. That's why we call
True.
it a lifestyle disease. And a
Correct.
lot of that has to do with the diet we are consuming today,
Mm-hmm.
the lack of activity.
Mm.
So
Sure.
somebody is sitting on a chair for 8 hours, 10 hours. So
Mm-hmm.
how can you expect that that person is going to continue to be healthy? Because there is
True.
going to be vertebral compression. There is going to
Mm-hmm.
be no pranic movement in the whole body, in the abdomen. Constipation is going to happen. Eventually, that
Correct.
person is eating junk food. That's how the pre-diabetes is going to
Mm-hmm.
happen. So, yoga by itself can't prevent all that. But
Mm-hmm.
firstly, like if you see any of our classes, they don't just focus on asanas and pranayama.
Mm-hmm.
Every class, we also tell the students a little bit about how to think, what thoughts to have, what lifestyle to lead.
Right.
So, a lot of effort goes into making sure that there is some input given in that direction. It
Mm-hmm.
may be something as simple as generosity. Even
Okay.
the even giving
Mm-hmm.
can be healing. Now,
Wow.
when people
That's it.
understand that, yes, then mindset starts changing. And when you start
True.
doing something for somebody, it affects your own lifestyle also.
Correct, correct,
You
correct.
start becoming more mindful, you become more
True.
aware. Just by my saying being mindful, people are not going to be mindful. But when they see all these changes happening, and we are all disciples of the Bihar School of Yoga, and
Okay.
the Bihar School of Yoga is all about lifestyle, it isn't about practice.
True. Okay.
So, first thing we emphasize on is that lifestyle, diet, mindfulness, awareness. And of course, you can imagine that somebody is not moving their physical body. They come to your class and start moving.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have seen within 15 days, within 1 month, dramatic change in the person.
Wow. Yeah.
Why? We didn't do any magic. But people who are not using any part of their body suddenly started moving. I mean, they do things very clumsily also at times. Sorry to use that
Mm.
word, but it may
Okay.
not be in a very yogic fashion. We don't
Mm-hmm.
force them, nahi aise hi karo, because
Mm-hmm.
gradually those movements keep improving.
True.
As the person becomes aware, the movements become smoother, they become more graceful.
Correct, ma'am.
So
Yeah.
the person just starts doing movements, and somebody who has not moved in a long time, when he or she starts moving, that
Mm-hmm.
alone is about 40-50% of the journey. That person starts feeling dramatically better.
Right.
Many times you will find that because of the wrong lifestyle and because of the the way we think and the stress levels, breathing is
Mm-hmm.
not good. Breathing is
Yeah.
very shallow. We always say breathe in and let the abdomen come out. So in class,
Mm.
you see there will be people who will breathe in and the abdomen goes in. And
In,
this
yeah.
is a reason for health issues.
Mm.
So when you start correcting these things, you start correcting the breathing. Meditation, many times when people start, they say, oh, I'm not able to meditate. It's okay. You just close your eyes and sit for some time. Many people come with class, they cannot close their eyes. Fear.
Wow.
Stress is
Okay.
so high, they cannot close their eyes. We don't tell them close your eyes at that time.
Mm-hmm.
They keep their eyes open, and we see over 2-3 months, then they start closing their eyes. So all this makes a difference, and it starts influencing their disease pattern. It starts healing. So
Correct.
that's how yoga starts making a difference. And people who don't have ailments, and such
Mm-hmm.
people come to class, which is less
Mm-hmm.
number of people. Mostly
Yeah, that's
people
true.
come to a yoga class when they have at least a small problem.
Yeah,
So
true.
first that problem resolves, and then many things that they didn't expect to resolve also starts resolving. That's the
Correct.
time people start feeling good about yoga, and then it becomes a preventive measure.
Yeah. Ma'am, do you also think that, yoga becomes the last resort for a person? For example, as you mentioned, that people first go to the doctor, they want to see whether it can be cured through a doctor, through taking pills, quick fix. And once that maybe doesn't happen, then they come to the yoga. Or how has your experience been there?
See, actually, you can't club everybody into one category. There are
Yeah, not
different kinds
everyone.
of people.
Hmm.
Some people are more health conscious. Some people are very naturally drawn towards yoga.
Mm-hmm.
Some people come out of curiosity also. And then there
Okay.
is a large group which comes, they have some ailment which has just started. They don't want to go to a doctor, so they come to you.
So they come.
That's the second
Okay.
category. And
Mm-hmm.
then there is a third category which goes to the doctor. The doctor
Mm-hmm.
also gets fed up, says, well, nothing works with you. Now you go to the yoga teacher. And
Okay.
many times they come with a prescription, the kind that I
Yeah, as
described.
you mentioned. Correct.
Yes. So I think all these three categories we see in our classes. The health conscious or the
Mm-hmm.
curious, the people who want to avoid medication, and the
True.
people who now nothing works, so I will go to a yoga class. And all three benefit by doing yoga practices for sure.
Wow. That's
The
great,
yoga
ma'am.
category is a very interesting category. Naturally drawn to yoga because they have been in this path earlier lives, they move into this, or how does that work with that category of people?
Uh, Maybe it is like that, we don't know. There is another very peculiar category I see coming to the class. So, if their parents have practiced yoga with us at any point, those children at some age turn to yoga.
Yoga. Okay.
Yes, they
Okay.
turn to yoga very easily. They turn to yoga because, and you will see that there is some difference in their mindset also. Because, when the parents are practicing yoga, um, the house atmosphere changes.
Wow.
Correct.
The
Correct.
way the parents behave in the house, what they emphasize on, the values that they permeate to their children, it is little different from a family which doesn't practice yoga. So when the person comes to class, you can more or less make out. And then I ask some questions, and invariably, at some time, one of the parents or both the parents or quite a large part of the family has attended yoga classes with us.
Very beautiful.
The other very interesting thing I saw was when we were running our children's yoga classes. Usha ma'am, along with our senior teachers, and then now even our generation of teachers, together we must have trained more than 1,000 ladies for prenatal yoga. And today,
Okay.
those children come to our classes. Now you can see
Okay.
a very big difference between those children and the other children. Those children are
Wow.
very naturally inclined towards yoga. They can sit down peacefully. They can listen to you. They can
Hmm.
focus on things much more easily. Why? Because their mothers practiced yoga in their prenatal time.
Oh, this is very
So,
interesting to know.
Like
yes. So, sorry.
like Abhimanyu, he knew the chakra yoga. Like that, because it goes into the womb from the womb itself.
I think there is a lot of influence of what you do during your prenatal time. It has a very big influence on the child. I mean, the amount of influence it has, it's pretty dramatic. We don't realize it.
Wow.
One of the
Hmm.
things we do in our prenatal class is always get the mother to speak to the child. And
Yeah.
the one thing we teach the mother is to constantly educate and explain things to the child while in the womb, as if the child is a living entity outside.
Wow.
True.
So, you are eating some food also, we tell the mother, okay, tell them, I'm giving you this food. It's very nourishing. It's very delicious. You will enjoy it. So, you are making a partner of that child in everything you do. And it makes a very big difference to the child.
True.
Ma'am, I have a question on neuro yoga. So you've been handling a lot of patients who suffer from neuro disorders. And actually, can you give our audience your experiences of how yoga has helped such patients and talk a little bit more about neuro yoga for them?
Yes. So neuro yoga is something, it's an extension of our yoga practices only with a little more
Correct.
emphasis on peripheral nerves and the brain. So actually, when patients come to you with some neurological disorder, lot of things play a role in what happens to them. So I'm going to give you some examples. Let's start with the environment. I remember, when I send a teacher for a private tuition and I know that the student is very ill or there is a challenging situation, many times I go first to the house of that participant and I talk to that participant and ask some questions to understand. So there was this old lady, actually, she wasn't very old. She was about 65, 67. And I went to her house and they wanted a yoga teacher because her memory was dying away and they felt yoga will help. So when I went to the house, I found one very remarkable thing. The daughter and the son-in-law kept saying, "Oh, she keeps forgetting. She keeps forgetting." The minute I asked a question, they would say, "She will not be able to answer. She doesn't remember." I took a couple of practices and I said, "What practices did you do?" Before the mother could say anything, the daughter said, "No, no, don't ask her those questions. She can't remember." Now constantly you are giving a suggestion to that person that she can't remember. Actually, they were very loving, they were very concerned about her. But they felt I was wasting my time asking those questions, and they were convinced she cannot remember anything. And the first advice I had for them was, please stop saying this completely. Tell her you can remember. That is the only thing that's going to help her to remember things. So as soon as they would say she can't remember, the mother would not even try. She would say, I can't remember. So she didn't improve very dramatically, but slowly, at least because that trigger was taken away. She didn't worsen as fast, I felt. She was at some level where she could be managed. Another very remarkable case I remember is somebody who, uh, you know, uh, came to my office, and she was again about 60, 62, and her daughter brought her. And she was in such bad shape, she could not even walk. She was completely dependent on the daughter. And she appeared so wrinkled, like an 80-year-old woman. And she came to class like this, shrunken completely,
Mm-hmm.
completely supported by her daughter. And daughter said, we want to enroll her for the yoga class. And I thought, how is she going to practice? She can't walk, she can't stand. The daughter is actually almost carrying her. How will she do yoga? And I asked her a few questions. Now, when I asked her some questions, I saw her eyes brightly lit up, and she could answer also. So I said,
Okay.
okay, she was coming from a very far off place. Daughter was ready to send a car driver, get her to come. So she came, and first 2, 3 classes, the daughter brought her, and she sat in the
Mm-hmm.
class. We kept her near a wall so that she could hold the wall, the railing, and walk and things like that.
Right.
Now, as we started focusing on her, the improvement in her was so dramatic. We make people walk on their toes or on their heels. And for someone who couldn't walk, we were very apprehensive how she could do it. But after faltering 2, 3 days, she started doing those things.
Mm.
Why? Because few times we said, oh, very good, huh? You were able to do this so well. And
Mm.
she felt confident that, okay, I can do this. So, family support was a lot, but family had also crippled her with the support. So much support, she's not
Correct.
moving anything. So the minute, and this lady, the change was very dramatic. She finally, in our last few classes, she would take an auto rickshaw and go back to her house on her own. So I felt that was a very big change. So how environment can play a very big role in what happens to you.
Correct.
Then I remember another student of ours, he came for 2 consecutive workshops. And he would never go to the doctor, but he had a lot of tremor in the hand. And he apparently used to forget things. But he was in a great denial mode. I said, what have you been diagnosed with, Vagara? He said, no, no, I am perfectly normal, nothing. I just wanted to enjoy your workshop. That's why I've come. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
okay, fine. But he attended 2 consecutive workshops. And at the end of the second workshop, he came and told me that I have been able to sign my name after a very long time.
Wow.
So,
Wow. Okay.
he had so much tremor in the fingers, he could not
Mm-hmm.
write. And all those neuro yoga practices, using the tips of the fingers, doing various things.
Mm-hmm.
With the toes, what you do with the toes is also going to reflect in your fingers. So all that, his hand became steady, and then he came and told me, after a long time, I could sign a check. So I
Wow.
felt that that was a big improvement that that person saw. So that was at a physical level. Now, even at a mental level, we had this young lady. She was about 35, 36. She came to class for the neuro yoga workshop. And we always ask each person, why have you joined the workshop? And she said, I don't remember anything. My memory has become so weak. I don't remember anything. First thing we said, get this auto suggestion out of your mind. Start saying you remember everything. And she looked at me and she said, why? I said, because this is creating further feeding your brain that you can't remember anything. Then she thought over it. She stopped saying that. I don't know. There is a mental record also which plays in your mind, even if she's
Yeah, yeah.
not saying it. But slowly that started changing. And after a few days, we found that she was very good with the memory games. And
Okay.
there was so much improvement in those memory games she was playing. By the end, she said, "Oh, I never realized I had such a good memory. I don't know why I didn't figure. Maybe you guys have worked on it and it has improved." See, it is also use of your brain muscle. Brain is also a
Yeah.
muscle. If you stop, if you think you forget, and so you start writing everything, you are not going to use. You use it, it's going to improve. So all those memory games helped her a lot to improve her memory. So that was another very nice case I remember. And I've told you about improvements at an environmental level, at a physical level, at a mental level. Now we always say, oh, yoga takes you somewhere spiritually. It gets you to evolve
Mm-hmm.
spiritually. And when we say spiritual, then what does that spiritual mean? So, Swami Niranjananand, Bihar School of Yoga, he describes always, he says, spirituality is about excellence in everything you do.
Wow.
Using
Okay.
your creativity, using your
Mm-hmm.
clarity of mind. So we had this student, and she used to come into class, very quiet student. Now, I think she was a lady in her 50s, and she was a housewife. Now we discovered, she had a mirror-like memory. Whatever you gave her, she could produce it as it is with one glance. It was so
Okay.
remarkable that later we started giving her more complex things to see whether she could reproduce. And then we said, Arey, you can do this so well. You can
Mm-hmm.
reproduce the whole thing. You have one glance memory you have. And she looked at us and she said, I never realized this all my life. Really. I have a fantastic memory, and I'm sure that helped her in a big way because
Yeah.
she said, now that I know I have this memory, I'm going to start using it. So
Wow.
maybe she had it all her life, but just that
Okay.
a realization of your strength can also
True.
make a big change to you.
Wow, fantastic. It's a very beautiful way of putting it. When we are talking about memories and neuro yoga practices, in a way, I just wanted to also touch base on meditation. A very equanimous, calm, poised person that we've always seen you, and I have admired you specifically for that. Did it all happen through meditation? How was your transformation journey in meditation? Because we see that our world around us, there's so much of I always hear those five enemies, right? Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Matsarya. So the jealousy, anger, hatred, and all of these things. And most of our cinemas, media, all revolves around these emotions, right? And they're multi-million dollar businesses. Now, these days, the super duper hit films, if you see, is based out of sensuality, violence, or rage. So they become super duper hit. And also, we see some of the studies that children usually love to play shooting games, violent games, bloodsheds, and things like that. They enjoy doing that. And I also searched that there are about 80% of adults who like watching porn videos. So if the world is tilting its access towards this, why meditation? What do you think meditation could do to transform one's life? Take us through what happens as one meditates now.
Um, yeah, all these distractions are there in the world, and I think there's a natural inclination of the mind to go through towards such things because all the time there is a desire to try something that may be forbidden, which is not ours.
Correct.
But I think it needs one reminder to people also that look, maybe you can do something different. And when it starts with meditation, firstly, as I said, I don't think one can only meditate. Some asana pranayam practice is required. Otherwise, meditation doesn't work. But just sitting quietly and closing your eyes. Many people come and say that I can't meditate. So Usha ma'am had a standard answer to this. She said, when you close your eyes and sit there and you think you can't meditate, that's your first step into meditation. Because you are aware that you are not concentrating. That you have got an awareness that you can't concentrate is your first step in the journey of meditation. And see, all of us are thinking all kinds of thought all the time, but we are not aware. Meditation is simply developing that awareness. When one is meditating and one knows, oh, my mind has run away, I need to bring it back. The mind has gone somewhere, let me bring it back. That's the first step to awareness. And when that step happens, then that awareness, which you have in your 10 minutes or 15 minutes of meditation, starts reflecting in your everyday life. Then you start looking at, how am I thinking? How am I behaving? How do I appear when I do things? Is what I'm doing conducive to the environment, to people around me? Am I spreading joy, or am I just neutral? Or am I actually a destructive force in the world? All these thoughts start coming to you because meditation gives you time to reflect on yourself. So suppose you are sitting 10 minutes in meditation. I would say 7-8 minutes you are not thinking only about the meditational thing, object or thought. But those 2-3 minutes that you think, those are super powerful. They can change, they can transform your whole mind completely. They can transform your behavior. Sometimes people say, oh, I meditate every day for 2 hours. And I feel in my mind it's unproductive. Don't meditate for so long. Meditate for a short time because we have many things to do in our everyday life.
True.
We can't leave everything aside and only meditate. So meditate for a short time, but try to do it productively. Keep your awareness there. For people who are not used to meditation or who have not systematically gone into the process, and they feel, oh, I experienced bliss. We don't know. There is a story about Swami Niranjananand. So one night he sat in meditation. And in the morning, he went and told his guru, Swami Satyanand, that today for the full night, I was meditating last night. And Swami Satyanand looked at him and said, what were you meditating on? And he said, nothing, I was in a world of bliss. Swami Satyanand said, you were not meditating, you had gone to sleep. So, being able to distinguish that is also important.
Yeah, true.
But that awareness comes as you meditate, that awareness comes. And when that awareness comes, it spreads to your everyday life. And that's why we meditate.
Ma'am, I have a question on the youth of our country now. There are so many statements going around. You must have also heard 70 hours work week, 90 hours work week. That's putting a lot of pressure on everybody, mentally, physically, and of course, to our, surroundings also. For example, our family, the pressure comes onto the family also eventually. So why would you suggest that, one should, of course, focus on their career growth, but also simultaneously look at yoga or any kind of other activity which gives you a mental peace is very necessary, right, nowadays. So what are your thoughts on that? If you could take us through that.
Yeah, I think for anything we do in life, there has to be a balance. So there is an age when we need to earn money, and that is important. But
True.
Getting carried away by just one spoke of our life, it doesn't help. So Stephen Covey, in one of his first books, had described the wheel of life. And he said that when you want to excel, it has to be work level, your physical health, your mental health, your social relationships, the hobby that you pick up, your spiritual growth. So all these 5-6 spokes of the wheel, only when they are well balanced, the wheel is going to roll forward.
True.
And at a young age, mostly we get carried away. नहीं, पैसा कमाना है. Now I have to earn
That's
money.
right.
Let me go behind. And there is so much of peer pressure also on us.
Correct.
It's difficult, but if one can ignore that peer pressure, I feel one will find more of a mental balance.
True.
Because today I feel that number one is your physical and mental health. Nothing
Correct.
surpasses that. Whatever money you earn,
Absolutely.
you can earn only if that physical and mental health is good. If that is not in place, then nothing else is going to fall in place. So that has to be number one. It can't be money first. Money is very important.
True.
We all need prosperity. We need comfort. That is also pretty important in life. But the pathway to getting there,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it has to be little easier. It can't be that all the time you are struggling against the current to do something.
Right.
So what happens is typically you start working hard, a lot of negative stresses bear on your mind. You are not able to let go of them.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that mental stress, the efficiency at your work unknowingly drops. Then you
Right.
start, or you
True.
need to spend more hours at work. This is where yoga helps because
Mm-hmm.
as you practice, you know how to clear that clutter, or the clutter starts
Correct.
clearing itself. So 25 things are happening around you. How do you
Mm-hmm.
discard 20 of them and focus on 5?
Focus on. Yeah.
I always say that there is a trade-off in life. When you choose to do one thing, you are choosing
Mm-hmm.
not to do 3 other
The other
things.
thing.
Absolutely. True.
So being able to find that okay, which are the ones I
Mm-hmm.
will trade off and which is the most important to me, then that
Correct.
helps, and making those right choices, and all the time keeping that balance of those 5 to 6
Mm-hmm.
spokes in life. That
Okay.
helps us, I think, build also a very holistic and valuable life.
And just to
Absolutely
follow
true,
up
ma'am.
with that question I had was like, see, if you look at the way we've all grown up, like we get educated, we do well in studies, we get into good colleges, and from colleges we get recruited into some corporates. And corporates, eventually, most of the youth, most of us had to work really long hours, right? And then you do not have that time, and you're like very lethargic, and you become so lazy that you're not able to take the time off to do this. So most of the working population will be struggling with this. So how? I mean, I understand these 6 spokes have to be maintained, but eventually, what happens is how we choose our career itself becomes a questionable thing, because the jobs that people choose these days are very demanding, right?
Yes, so yeah, very close to me, I have 3 girls. All of them are very successful in their individual careers. One is my own daughter. One is a daughter we have adopted kinds.
Okay.
And there is a third very close friend, and all of them are between their early 30s and early 40s.
Okay.
And they keep asking me this question, okay, how do we go navigate through our corporate life? And
Mm-hmm.
they all work with good organizations, Unilever, Australian Bank, Amazon. So you can imagine
Yeah.
how competitive life is over
Yes,
there.
yes.
Absolutely.
And I could see a lot of negative stress with each of them. And I said, look, even I've been through this in my career. And when I look back, I feel there was one big mistake I made. All the time
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking I had to run ahead and I had to get promoted. I had to get that incentive. I had to get something.
Mm-hmm.
I said, now looking back, I feel that I did not enjoy life as much at work as I could have had I
True.
just kept all these things aside.
Yeah, makes
Um,
sense.
Out of 3 of them, I think at least 1 or 2 of them have bought this, not all 3 of them. But occasionally they do come back and revert to me and say, well, we are letting go more easily. And one of them even said to me that I think I've been more successful adopting this principle. So I'm not now
Okay.
worrying about what incentive I get, where am I rated on my performance, what am I delivering. I'm just focusing on my job. I'm doing the best possible. And I think I've been able to give it the job a lot more. So I haven't said reduce your work hours or anything. And I don't think that that fatigue of not being able to practice yoga comes out of long working hours. It comes out of
Mm-hmm.
the mental stress
Right.
that pulls you down.
Mm.
You know,
True.
if the boss says, "Oh wow, you've done a good job," you feel
Mm-hmm.
so happy. Next morning you can practice yoga. But the same boss says that, "Oh, you've done a lousy job, but this was not expected of you." Your energy, your pranic energy saps so much. Yoga and all you're not able to think of. You are just slumped
True.
into your chair and in your bed.
Mm.
So, how much negativity you take with that stress, I think that matters a lot. It
Mm.
matters a lot more. And I think that there are very successful people also who practice yoga. So, it is not that people in corporate life don't practice yoga at
Correct.
all. We
Correct.
ourselves teach many of them. In my life, I found that that little regular practice of yoga, it helped a lot in many
Mm.
ways. So it is possible to practice yoga.
The other question is with respect to kids and the aging population. There are two sets of people. What we see as a major change with the Indian kids is the overconsumption of junk food, as you mentioned, excess gadget usage, and very less play outside. And most of them, if you see complaints from the teachers and principals saying that they lack attention and focus. So how can yoga help kids? That is one thing. Does it help? I mean, in what age category does yoga really help? Because if they are too small, will they be able to even focus on asanas and pranayams? And the other category of people is the aging population. We have improved the longevity of those people of the aging category. So we feel that we have fixed their bodies, their organs are working fine. We had a successful surgery or an operation. But generally, when we look at them, we see that they are looking very lost, right? I mean, there's a loss of energy, their prana. What happens to their bodies after they go through multiple surgeries or procedures, pills, and treatments, compared to having adopted a healthy life through yoga? So, both these categories, the kids and the previous generation, how do we fix or how do we help them out with yoga, ma'am?
So let me tell you my story. I had gone to this Bihar school of yoga ashram with my daughter and my whole family. And when I was doing my asana practice, they didn't involve my daughter into any of those practices. She was at that time about 8 years
Mm-hmm.
old. And I kept saying, please, I want to involve my daughter also in these
Mm.
practices and get her to do. So they looked at me and they said, no, we don't think your daughter needs yoga. You need yoga.
Mm.
Whatever correction has to be brought about, bring it in yourself. Daughter will automatically follow you.
True.
I mean, to me, that was an eye opener. If I look at the kids of today, I feel we don't need to change those kids. We actually need to work on the parents. What is happening? I mean, sometimes I
Okay.
go to the airport and I'm really amazed. The child is crying, wants something. Mother is so busy on the phone, she doesn't even look at that child at times.
Mm.
Mm.
I mean, if the mother behaves like that, then what can you expect from the child? Child is going to only show enhanced behavior of the same kind. So unless the parent adopts a lifestyle where there is less use of devices, or I wouldn't say less because all of us need those devices, right? Those devices have become our work area,
Mm.
but moderate that use and pay attention to your surroundings as well, and pay attention to things that matter.
Correct.
I feel that's very important. If the child is crying, you just can't be on your phone. That child
Mm.
needs attention, the child needs love. Give him or her that love. Automatically, the child will not be as hooked to a device.
True.
I was out of town once on a holiday, and in a resort, there was a huge family which had come. And there was this 4-year-old girl sitting there, and every meal, she was given a device to keep in front of her. And she
Mm.
ate the meal with
Yeah.
that device. Now, the minute that device was taken away, she threw a tantrum
Yeah.
which would get everybody in that hall to stop eating. Now, do you
Correct.
think she was born with that device, that she needed it? Obviously, the parents are keeping it in front of her so that they have no problem feeding her.
True.
If you are going to bring about that discipline and say, oh my God. So later, I just smiled at the father and I said, okay, because he was also very desperate. I want my daughter to leave this device. I said,
Mm.
okay, does she need it every time? And he said, yeah, she doesn't do anything. It's difficult to control her
Mm.
without. But who made that happen? So if you are going to keep the
True.
device in front, the child is going to go with that device only. So first you will have to adopt a lifestyle which is little more difficult for you also, where you
Mm.
try to make the child eat without a device, right? Um, I think there is one school of thought that some parents follow, that until 3 or 4 years, no device to the child. It's
Yeah.
a very
That's
good thought, because then the parent is also attempting to do different things to feed the child, and that worked. I mean,
correct.
it worked with previous generations, so why not now? And when you reduce your own device usage, not for work
True.
but for all these pastimes,
Mm.
then the child also is automatically, the child knows, okay, I have to be attentive to somebody who's speaking to me.
Mm.
But
Correct.
if the parent is not doing that, child will follow. So first thing, I think, if the children don't need to be educated as much as the parents.
Agreed.
It is the
Yeah.
parents, yes. And one needs to work with the parents on this.
Mm.
Your other question, which is a completely different question, is about people aging today and quality of life really suffering, because we are repairing all kinds of things in them and not being able to attend to that basic issue of quality of life.
True.
Uh, Now, up to a certain age, one can keep people more alive and
Mm-hmm.
lead a better quality of life when their mobility is better and when they are using their brain.
Mm.
So in our classes, students come up to the age of 87, 88 years. Earlier, we had our oldest student was 92. Now she has passed away. But the alertness of these students, mental agility, and the physical agility, I found was much beyond people who were not practicing yoga.
Mm.
So these people had practiced yoga for maybe 15, 20 years. From the age of 60, 65, they had started. And their overall agility was better. Now, not to say that these people didn't have, like, I know that when these people passed away also, their last 6 months were painful. They were in bed.
Mm-hmm.
But till that point in time, they were far more agile than, and their quality of life was much better.
Mm.
So I don't know if one can completely rule out that end stage,
Mm-hmm.
sudden deterioration, but at least one can prolong the quality of life and enhance the quality of life for quite a long time with yoga, with stretches, with breathing practices, with meditation. Um, when people are doing all this, one of our students, I remember, she learned
Mm-hmm.
swimming at the age of
Mm-hmm.
77.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
yeah, it was quite an achievement, isn't it? That she felt like learning swimming. And she was a
Okay.
very agile lady. She finally passed away at the age of 90. But
Wow. Okay.
she till 88 that she was in our
Mm-hmm.
class, uh, if you gave any puzzle in the class, she would be the
Mm-hmm.
first to solve it till
Oh,
the age of
lovely.
88.
Okay.
So, there was I can see a remarkable difference between people within the class who are practicing. Their
Mm-hmm.
flexibility is so much better, their balance is so much better. And people outside, possibly, who are not doing anything for their physical, mental health.
Ma'am, we've all known that there are eight basic pillars of yoga, which is your Ashtanga yoga, right? Which is your yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, and Samadhi. So these are the eight pillars. We'll not talk about all the eight pillars today, but we all know about Asan Pranayam. Can you throw some light on what exactly does Yam and Niyam mean? And in today's life, how can we practice these two pillars of yoga?
So, when we talk about Yam and Niyam, first thing that comes to our mind is only Patanjali. And then
Correct.
we think of only 10 Yam and Niyam.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of sages wrote about various Yam Niyam, like Sage
Mm-hmm.
Vasishtha. He wrote
Okay.
about various Yam Niyam, Indriya Nigraha, Danti.
Mm-hmm.
Even Manaprasad, which is similar to Santosh, but all the
Mm-hmm.
time beyond Santosh, being happy all the time,
Right.
or Namaskar, Japa. These are
Mm-hmm.
all different yam niyams, and they were brought about to improve your quality of life, your lifestyle. Today we call it lifestyle, but our yogis also
Correct.
did many things to enhance lifestyle.
True.
So, how to lead your life and
Mm-hmm.
what to do to lead your life. Now, all of it may not come only through yoga or meditation. Somebody has to
Mm-hmm.
all the time make you aware of that.
Correct.
That look, you need to focus on this and work on it. So,
Right.
for example, for me, I feel our gurus, Bihar School of Yoga, they are very particular
Mm-hmm.
about Yam Niyam. In fact, today, if you see, their focus on Yam Niyam is much more than on Asan Pranayam.
Yeah. Okay.
And that brings about a lot of change within yourself, because then you are always thinking, what can I do to incorporate this into my life? For
Mm-hmm.
example, even something like generosity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm picking this up repeatedly because generosity is such a big healer. When you
Mm-hmm.
give, when you practice giving, it's not a material thing. It might be your energy towards something, it may be your time towards something. There is so much feeling of satisfaction and happiness within. Same thing, no, when we say ahimsa, you
Right.
could have been angry, but you have controlled that anger. It is a big
True.
thing. In your mind also, you feel good. And that
Correct.
goodness then percolates through all your work. And when we take a particular yam and say that, okay, I'm practicing ahimsa. Now,
Mm-hmm.
it can be at various layers. First is my outer expression. So,
Okay.
something happens to me and I feel very angry, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
display it outside. That is one
Okay.
ahimsa, that at least
Right.
I'm not displaying. But
Mm.
at the same time, because I'm not displaying outside, a lot is happening within my mind, and it is
True.
causing so much of trouble to me that I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually being very violent to myself.
Yeah.
Then there is the second one where something happens and I don't express it outside. The turmoil is within me, but I recognize it and I say, okay, I don't need to get so tumultuous about it. Let it rest in my
Mm-hmm.
mind. And
Okay.
then there is a third level where something happens and I'm able to easily let it go and say it
Correct.
doesn't matter. Okay. So out of the three levels, this point where I'm able to say it doesn't matter,
Mm-hmm.
that's the best, no, among these three.
That's the best. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Then you can think about a fourth level,
Mm-hmm.
that something happens and I feel very upset about it, but I let it go. And not only I let it go, I go there and contribute to making something different and produce positivity in that same situation. That's
Okay.
the fourth level. Okay, so each yama and niyam has like this a deeper, we just understand the very superficial aspect of it, but
True.
it has many levels to it.
Mm-hmm.
So the deeper we go, the better effect those have on our life and on
Correct.
our mindset, on our physical health. So practicing, why our yogis were so particular that you practice those yams and niyams. They
Mm.
also realized that just your asana pranayam is one part of the whole story.
Correct.
Today
Correct.
we have made it the whole story for our convenience.
True. True.
Okay, but it's all right. I feel we have at least come from the point where we didn't recognize yoga to recognizing asana pranayam. Now moving further, we will recognize a lot more about yam niyam. And I feel
True.
this is where a yoga teacher plays a very big role.
Mm-hmm.
Because when a yoga teacher doesn't focus only on the asana pranayams and brings this to the surface every time with a student, then the student also starts thinking in that area a little more and
True.
starts practicing something in that area.
Yeah, makes sense. Ma'am, we just spoke about neuro yoga, right? Just few minutes back. For our viewers, can you demonstrate few neuro yoga practices? Very simple ones that we can maybe enjoy a little bit and then.
So this is a very simple neuro coordination practice where you are using your hands and legs. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Okay.
start by tapping your heels. You tap the
Okay.
right heel with the left hand, left
Mm-hmm.
heel with the right hand, and both you are tapping from front. So
Okay.
right front, left front, right front, left front. Then you
Okay.
start doing it from behind. Right back, left back, right back, left back. Then you do it right front, left back,
Mm.
right front, left back. Then another combination,
Mm-hmm.
left front, right back, left front, right back. Now, if you have to combine all these practices,
Mm-hmm.
so you do right front, right back, left back, right
Mm.
front, left back, left front, right back.
Okay.
Okay.
That's quite confusing
So,
sometimes.
yeah, because the mind is not still oriented towards that
Right.
practice.
True, true.
But you do it a few times and you get used to it automatically. And see, if I give you instructions and you have to follow this, you
Mm-hmm.
have to be very alert and aware to do this
Yeah,
practice.
correct.
Okay. So you are using here the extremities, the hands,
Mm-hmm.
the legs. Secondly, you're also bending your pelvic joint. So there is some use of mobility. You're
True.
aware that you're not bending the spine. That is a
Mm.
lesson in awareness as well. And then with
Correct.
that, you go still deeper into the practice. When you keep doing this and you're comfortable, I
Mm.
also start thinking, am I tapping and producing a sound? Or am I
Yeah.
just barely reaching my feet? Now, this is one more level of awareness I'm
Mm-hmm.
reaching. Am I able to take my leg back well? Or is it
Mm-hmm.
very difficult for me to do this? But I do this a few times and it becomes easier for me to do that. So it's
Correct.
increasing my mobility as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is one kind of practice. Another one which I like very much, I'm just going to show that to
Mm-hmm.
you.
Sure.
We use this very often with our senior citizens. And believe me, even younger people have trouble doing this practice.
Okay.
So I take my right hand in front, right foot in front,
Mm-hmm.
left hand in front, left foot in front. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is right, left,
Mm.
right, left. Now I take it to the side. Right side, left side,
Mm.
right side, left side. And I'm also asking people to look at that side.
Correct.
Then I take it at the back, the hand and the leg. Right
Mm.
back, left back, right back, left back. Now I take it up, right up, left
Mm.
up, right up, left up. Okay. So now I've created 4 combinations: front,
Correct.
side, back, and up. Now we try and do them all together. So
Mm-hmm.
right front, left front, right side, left side, right back, left back, right up, left up.
Okay.
Okay. Now this is one set. Now we make it a little more complex. We do it
Mm-hmm.
with opposite handed leg.
Okay.
Right hand,
Okay.
left leg. Left hand, right leg. Okay. So I'm using
Mm-hmm.
opposite hands here.
Right.
Then I go to the side also opposite.
Mm.
And I go back also opposite. And I go up opposite.
Opposite.
So now I've created one whole set like this.
True.
Front is opposite. Side is opposite. Back is opposite. And up.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
now I combine the two.
Mm-hmm.
So I do right now, same side.
Okay.
Okay, so the whole sequence of same side,
Hmm.
back, up. Opposite now.
Hmm.
Up and up. Okay,
Wow.
so now when you do this, imagine what happens to your right brain
Yeah,
and
yeah.
left brain.
Yeah. I can
You are
understand.
just toning your whole system through it. Let me
Correct.
show you a couple of finger practices as well.
Sure.
So something as simple as this,
Mm-hmm.
with my fingers. I'm using 2 fingers with my right hand, 3 with my left
Mm-hmm.
hand.
Hmm.
And then I ask people to change.
Okay.
Try it. It's not as
Yeah,
easy as
yeah.
it looks.
It is
People
not
do get
actually.
confused. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And if I have to make it a little more complex, I'm using my index finger and middle
Mm-hmm.
finger. And
Mm-hmm.
second hand, I'm using my middle and
Okay.
ring.
Okay.
And then I ask you to change.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm able to do it because I have practiced and I've been teaching. But in the
Hmm.
beginning, when you start doing this, it is quite complex.
True. Yes.
So these kind of practices start just, increasing your awareness, your alertness to a
Mm-hmm.
different level.
Correct. That's true, ma'am.
We
And it's
increase the
very
pace
interesting to know this.
Huh?
Sorry, I was just saying
Yeah.
it is very interesting to, know something new that a lot of people might not know that this is also one of the angles that we can look at for yoga.
Yes. Yes.
No, by increasing the pace, I said this practice becomes even more confusing.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it at any pace, once you're used to
Hmm.
it, it can just, but it's also important to first take people through any practice slowly, systematically. See,
Right.
when you are taking especially a neuro yoga class, I feel there has to be that a balance between a challenge and a sense of achievement.
Hmm.
Both have to happen.
Yeah.
That's one thing I keep telling the teachers. You can't just do a practice which people can't follow. They have to at every stage feel, oh wow, I'm able to do this now.
Correct.
And the final question, is spirituality in yoga something that people adopt when everything else fails? So what is that you can say people to start with an early adoption?
Well, you see yoga all around you and you see so much spoken about it. So at least out of curiosity, go and try it. And try it for some time and have patience with it. And the benefits you will discover from that are so amazing that those will stay with you and they will keep growing with you. Maybe there are times when you do yoga, then for a few months you don't find time, you give up.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you come back
Yeah.
to it.
True.
So when you repeatedly do this, leaving, coming back, a point comes when you stop leaving it. You settle with it and you feel good with it, and it enhances your whole lifestyle and your being. It does a lot more than physical and mental health. When we say spirituality, what is that spirituality about? It's about creating a better me. It's
Hmm.
about creating a more efficient me. It's about creating excellence in everything I do, or creating a more creative person within me.
Correct.
So when Swami Vivekananda said that it is acceleration of evolution, I think that's what he meant, that each of us create better human beings of ourselves. And yoga has the power to do that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, ma'am. Very useful insights for all the questions that we asked.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving us time.
Thank you. Thanks for calling me.
Yeah, it was fun interacting with you and so much of information as well. So
All right.
Much
Thank
Hari
you.
Om. Namaste.
Hari Om.
Namaste.